Hi, welcome. Casey Feicht here, back for our last week, week four, talking about wonder at work and our book of the month, Sparked. So I really love this topic that we're going to talk about tonight. It's failure. I know, right? You love it too? I know you're probably thinking, what? Failure's not very fun. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of failure myself. And I want to share a different perspective tonight. So, wonder through failure is a given, but what a person chooses to do with the experience of failure is called resilience. And so, failure is almost always seen as a negative thing, and right? And yet, it's really an opportunity to go in a new direction, to have a new perspective, to consider ideas or revelations or insights that may not have been available before. So, failure is really an amazing opportunity to trust, to lean into wonder, and to get a different perspective. So, I've got a couple acronyms that I love for failure, or for fail, I should say. And you may have heard these, but the first one is fail, first attempt in learning. And some of us, have more than one first attempt in learning, right? We might fail multiple times. I think, wasn't it Edison that failed, 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb? So another acronym is found another interesting lesson. That's kind of the one I like to go to. Found another interesting lesson because I tend to fail a lot. I have ADHD, and that's just part of my nature. Is like I tend to go through things like I don't really even learn how to do something until I've failed. So failure does not mean a loss of something. Failure occurs only if the loss of that thing takes our enthusiasm, our courage, our zest, our life, our faith, our conviction, and our happiness from us. That is failure indeed. And that's a quote from our founder, Ernest Holmes, from The Power of an Idea. So I just love it. Basically, he is saying that unless you are giving up, you're not failing. If it's taking your courage, your zest, your faith, your conviction, yes, it's failure. And maybe it does temporarily and you just come right back. Fall down 7 times, get back up 8 times. So we really have the opportunity to redirect ourselves to find a better and blessed way to do things. And guess what? We're all human, right? Things don't go as planned. I love, probably Anonymous said this that, like, make plans and God laughs. That's kind of the story of my life. People are always asking me, what are you going to do after ministerial school? What's your plan? I'm like, I don't know. I don't have a plan. I'm going to allow myself to be guided to what's next for me. And my entire life has been like that. I never planned hardly any of the things in my life because I'm not a very good planner. I just like to be guided. And of course, I make plans, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But it's our attitude about how we go through these things, right? So it's totally normal and human to plan to do something and fail. And again, it's just an opportunity to learn. So learning is really failing forward. That is the key. It gives us the opportunity to not give up, but to keep going when the going gets rough, right? When the going gets rough, don't give up. And everyday wonder really can be our guide. It can be our companion to shift our focus. That didn't work out. I wonder why that is. Oh, okay. Well, I thought this would be this way. And obviously, life is complicated, right? There are so many other people or situations involved. We can be curious about the situation, right? So it doesn't mean that your ideas are flawed. It just simply means that there's something else to be learned or gained here, right? A course correction is necessary. So, really, failure is pointing to possibility to try again to make something better or to see what's ahead that may be even better for us. So I love these two quotes. They're very similar and kind of along the lines of what I just said. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. And that's by Ariana Huffington, who's done really well. And then by Albert Einstein, failure is success in progress. And I love that. Let me say that again. Failure is success in progress. Because if you think about it, there's lots and lots of steps in progress. I've given up on perfection unless I'm thinking about being perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect. But progress to me is really where I'd rather go. And so failure is part of that progress and that success. So I want to tell you about Sarah Blakely, and then we'll dive into more of our sparked archetypes this week. In 2012, Sarah Blakely was crowned by Forbes the youngest self-made female millionaire. She was the inventor of Spanx. Most women will know what this is. It's just kind of a form-fitting, doesn't show lines like the pantyhose used to. And so she became the first self-made billionaire. So she credits so much of her success to her father, who encouraged her as a child to fail. And when I first heard this, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. So her dad would, her family would sit around the kitchen table at dinner, and her dad would ask her and her brother, what did you guys fail at this week? And it sounds like if they had nothing to say, that he might be a little disappointed. He encouraged them to fail because he really felt like if they weren't out there trying new things or challenging themselves, then and failing and learning along the way, then that was the failure of not putting yourself out there, right? So he knew that many people become paralyzed by the fear of failure, and he wanted to encourage them to push the envelope, to push themselves. So that really became her attitude. And she said that really for her, failing was not trying something new. So actually not going for her big dream. We talked about her dreams a lot last week. Not going for dreams, not trying something new, that was the failure. So there's really, in every opportunity, there's a lesson, there's something to learn. And she says that, taking a chance builds your character. So her company, Spanx, wouldn't have existed without her failing, because she did not pass the SLAT. She was trying to take the lawyer SAT exam, and she failed it twice. And so she was looking for something else. And look, it led her to be the first female self-made millionaire, which I think is pretty amazing. And this goes along with another quote by Edison that says, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, right? From the man who failed how many times? So really, I'm encouraging you today to think of failure as opportunity, to really consider it something that may be in your life that needs to be tweaked, changed a bit, taking a little more time with certain things in order to get to what's right. And we've been talking this whole month about being sparked, right? So that's like discovering, learning, questioning, diving in, and trying new things, using wonder to decide, well, maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try that. Sometimes things go as planned, and sometimes, I don't know about you, but I have found that, like, oh my gosh, this thing I did 10 years ago, which I thought was a failure, and honestly, I haven't thought about for a long time because I moved into other areas. I can now see what I learned from that situation or that experience has brought me confidence or strength in a current situation. And I don't have a specific example right now on the top of my head, but that has happened to me so many times. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't really think that was a key thing, but look at how it's helping me now. So I think that that's a really important thing to think about, that's an opportunity for using that and tweaking it for when the time is right. So failure, again, is an opportunity to reevaluate and to come back stronger and be resilient, right? So what is resilience? Resilience is essentially bouncing back after an attempt or what we call failure. And I like the word attempt. What if I'm attempting to do this thing? And that means I'm really taking off my expectations, right? I'm like, I'm going to, for instance, do this talk. I'm not expecting perfection. I'm not expecting failure. I'm attempting to do this series. I'm hoping that it goes well. I know there'll be things that I can learn. So it's an attempt. And I love that as a replacement word or reframe for failure as well. So really we can look at everything we do has multiple parts, and we can start to go, oh, this worked and this didn't, and this worked. And, we can look at it in a way that we can redream, we can reimagine, we can sort through and put the pieces together in a new way for a new attempt. And it might turn out to be another failure, and then we do it again. So really, maybe this is your chance to dream again when you have a failure come up and wonder what could be and allow it to be so. So again, that resilience is really bouncing back. It can allow us to detach from the outcome and explore with curiosity and trust and see what unfolds. And so ultimately, it's feedback, right? Failure or whatever the situation is, the attempt, it's not positive, it's not negative, it's neutral. And that's true with almost everything in life. We tend to polarize and label things. This is good, that's bad, I like this, I hate that. What if we lived in the gray area a lot more? And what if we were like, well, I have a preference to that, but I'm okay with this? Failure won't feel so extreme. So really being able to be willing to move ahead, even when things don't go as planned, right? And again, as a spiritual practice, wonder can reveal to us that there is a divine plan. It's not our plans, but it may be a divine plan. And we're creating space so that we are willing to fail forward, so that we're willing to be open and to see it as an exciting, adventurous journey. So we'll fail forward, we'll fail often, keep moving forward. So here's another quote that I love from our founder, Ernest Holmes, from his book, Creative Mind. He says, "We have within us a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in our outer world, a power that can overcome every obstacle in our life." Whew, those are powerful words. I love that. So let's dive into the book again, our Sparked book. And this is our last reminder, our last session, right? We've got three main areas. We've got the primary, that's your strongest impulse. You've got, that's like most of your passion or meaning. So most of us feel pretty confident there. We may not feel in our primary area as much. We've got our shadow, which is kind of the amplifier that supports that primary. And then we've got the anti. And this is the areas where you may feel the failure, right? So mine's essentialist. And I think I shared with you, that's all about creating organization from clutter or chaos. And that's hard for me. I kind of live in some chaos. And I have let go of thinking of myself as a failure because I just know that's not my strength. And that's why I get support in those areas. Other people would never want to do public speaking or speak to you like this. That's not their strength. It's not that they're bad or failing at it. It's just, we have to find our strengths and our primaries. So these last 2 weeks this last week, we have two left. And the first one is the advocate. So this slogan for the advocate is, I am your champion. And these are the people who are just shining bright. They amplify. They're individuals who are working in communities or institutions. They're giving voices to people who may not have that voice, right? Advocating for others or advocating for themselves. They're usually born like salespeople. They're really passionate. They're bringing forth that energy for change because they're advocating usually for change, a change agent. But they can be introverted too. They don't always have to be really extroverted. I don't know if you know who Glennon Doyle is. She's a favorite artist of mine, or author, I should say. She wrote, oh my God, I'm completely blanking on her book right now. Just look her up and look at her books. They're so great. But she is definitely more of an introvert, even though she's this amazing writer. Okay, so I'm not going to call that a failure. I'm just going to say I didn't remember, and that's okay. You can look it up. So back to our advocates, their black holes are sometimes they can feel alone, they can feel very isolated, or they can kind of get into that lack of control because they're so single-minded, they're so focused. Um, and also keeping in mind, like I mentioned earlier, that nothing is truly binary. You know, it's easy to get into this challenged, this for or against, right? But there's a lot in the middle. You know, I personally don't like that we have a two-party system, right? We have other parties, right? But there's this polarization. And so the advocates are really kind of trying to speak up for maybe some of that gray area in the middle. Progress can be really hard for advocates because they want to get to the end goal. They're advocating for something specific. They have high expectations. They're doing the best they can. And so being patient along the way of the progress. Boundaries are really important about how much they give because it can be very draining to advocate so much and then have nothing left. So again, self-care. I think I've said that about every single one of our Sparketypes here is self-care. And the last one I want to share is the nurturer. So the slogan for the nurturer is I've got you, right? We know these people, they're taking care of others, supporting, they are seeing you, hearing you, holding you up, lifting you up. And their work can show up in non-traditional ways. Doesn't always have to be, you know, the hospice person or the nurse or, you know, the caregiver, the teacher. They may not be touchy-feely, and that's okay. They're just making an incredible difference. They're nurturing people in their lives. The challenge here, the black hole for our nurturers, is that they're highly empathetic, right? They feel all the feelings. I can relate to this so much. So again, having those boundaries and taking care of yourself if you're a nurturer is really important, not to take on other people's pains. And again, the nurturers need to receive just like they give. They give, they need to receive that nurturing as well. So here's another. I got a lot of quotes in tonight's session. So from Robert F. Kennedy, only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. And I absolutely love that because if you're willing to take risks and dare, then you can achieve that greatness. But if you don't put yourself out there, you can't, right? So there's more to gain from failure than there is to lose. So failing forward, in your work means that you're growing, you're being productive, you're willing to advocate, you're willing to adapt, and knowing that everything you're doing is contributing in some way to our planet, to working in a way that works for you, finding your dreams, bringing it all together, finding your spark. So going forward, knowing that success and failure are one and the same, right? That they both work off of each other. And again, we can live in that gray area. So the real work is determining what's next, right? And wonder gives us that opportunity to move beyond the stigma, move beyond failure, and really wonder, like, what if? And what if I could do this? Or what if I could do that? You know, to no matter what, keep going and don't ever give up. So powerful. All right, that's a lot. So we're going to go into a little bit of meditation here, some visioning meditation as I've done the last few weeks. So again, if you want to grab some paper or have something up on your keyboard, you want to jot down some notes, you're welcome to do that. And this one's going to be just a little bit different because I really want you to, we've just done a lot of investigation into the different roles, the different activities in our lives. And as we wrap up this series, really starting to think about your work goals, your spark, what you've learned from these 4 weeks together, and how you can take that moving forward in a way that that you find your spark and that you live your spark in a place from that divine connection, being connected to the divine, being guided, but also, you know, you're not going to just sit on the couch for 40 hours a week and just wait for the answer to come, right? You're out there You're learning, you're writing, you're reading, you're investigating, you're trying, you're failing, you're dreaming, you're doing all of that. So as I share with you these questions, and just let yourself think, again, it doesn't need to be full answers. Maybe there's some bullet points, but just visualize and breathe and be in these questions. All right, so let's take a nice deep breath in and a deep breath out. Close your eyes, just settle into your body, settle into your breath. Just allow yourself to let go. Let go of the past, let go of the future, let go of anything except for this present moment. And so I'd like you to ask yourself, do I believe in myself? And when you kind of notice what arises, maybe there's a why or why not, bringing in the dreaming concept of failure. And maybe there's a, how can I believe more in myself? Just breathing in, allow what arises to come. And if nothing arises, these are questions to ask yourself again in the future. And then the next question is, do I have clear career goals? Or maybe passion goals? Maybe it's spark. Do I have clear spark about moving forward or goals? So whether it's a goal or an intention, it's just kind of a guidance of moving forward. I do personally have some career goals, even though I still know that I'll be guided, but I'm open to allowing that to flow. Just notice what arises. And the next question is, how am I able to bounce back from disappointments? How are you bouncing back from disappointments? What are some of your spiritual practices or ways that you can bounce back more so from disappointments? Because they'll happen. I'd say for me, daily. And when we're deeper in our spiritual practice, when we're able to really connect, we can maybe not have to have as many disappointments. And then our last question here is, are you willing to persist? It's so easy to start something and then it doesn't go the way we want. We give up and move on to something else. What if that failure, that feedback, those attempts are just signs that more persistence is needed? Are you willing to persist? Just notice what arises for you. That willingness word is so powerful. As someone who has been in long-term recovery, I've really learned to be willing to be willing. A lot of my success recovery has been built on being willing to be willing. So I encourage you to just allow these questions to keep swimming around. What's really powerful is to do a visioning practice. Maybe you take this and you do it with friends and you do it together and you share what's revealed. It can be really transformative when you're doing it in community, when you're connecting with other open and receptive hearts. Maybe set an intention and allow yourself to be guided. Maybe you watch this again, and this time you just come from a place of, Spirit, guide me. God, guide me to what's next. So many different ways to do it. So take a nice deep breath in and a deep breath out. And slowly bring your awareness back to the moment. We're going to close our time together. I want to thank you so much for participating with me. Please feel free to, to drop me a note, to reach out. Let me know if any of this was supportive to you. Take action, stay focused on your spark, and I hope you have a beautiful moment. Thank you so much.